everybody, welcome to No Excuses. I'm your host, Rodney, and my special guest today is Mike Greenlee. And I have to say, you have one story that we need to hear.
Okay.
Your story, how today's world has changed so much, in the essence of we hear so much of people being bullied, right? And unfortunately, when we hear about people getting bullied, their adverse reaction is not always a pretty one. However, you and I spoke behind the scenes before we got started, and we realized that you took bullying and then realized the way to get back is to excel in life. Not to sit still, not to take revenge. And the best revenge was showing how I'm going to take that energy and make life better for myself. And you did. You were excelled in the corporate world. You excelled in writing for the corporate people. You now, of course, excelled to writing music for people who do dance.
Words only.
Words
lyrics.
only. Yes,
Right.
Words only. We don't look you as Fred Astaire. Don't worry about
good,
that. So, how did this all come about, and how did you channel that bullying, Mike, and did not do the recourse that we're seeing today? And then, of course, realizing the best way to get out of this is to propel in life.
So do I go back and tell the story?
Sure.
Okay. So I grew up in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Yes.
It was an island of 5,000 people. There was a law on the books. I was raised to be a Southern gentleman, very considerate of others. There was a law on the books that you cannot have a tree or anything more than 3 stories tall on your yard, because it would be rude to cast a shadow on your neighbor's property. So that was the kind of way that I was brought up, to be polite, and considerate. Right. The problem that I ran into is that kids weren't polite and considerate to me when they discovered that I was different. Because this was decades ago. The world is more diverse now.
Right.
But
and different in how way?
It was mostly a Southern Baptist town.
Yes.
And I was born what they called the dirty Jew boy.
Interesting.
Interesting. I had swastikas carved into my locker.
How horrible.
And people told me to die, dirty Jew boy. And they told me I was the Christ killer.
Oh my goodness.
And then in recess, if you're a child in elementary school, to make things worse, I should tell you, so I skipped a grade. I have no mechanical skills, can barely change a light bulb, but my dad was a psychologist. He gave me an IQ test. So I know I have a very high IQ, fine.
Which makes me nervous.
But they made me skip the 2nd grade because I was finishing the homework, the assignments, faster than the kids around me and getting bored. So now I was even more different, because now I was in the 3rd grade, but I was really only a 2nd grader.
Wow.
And I was the dirty Jew boy. So in recess, I used to hide behind the bushes in elementary school, praying for recess to be over, because nobody wanted to play with me.
Wow.
So then I decided in high school, I'm going to be popular. And I went on what now, from my corporate background, I would call a marketing campaign.
Okay, good for you.
So you're a Republican, I'm a Republican. You're a Democrat, I'm a Democrat. And turns out I was editor.
You were more like a politician.
Yeah, now that you yes. And a shapeshifter is in effect. So I was the editor of my high school yearbook. Words have always been important to me. And I was voted most popular. So we had senior superlatives. The only problem was it wasn't me, Michael Greenlee, who was popular. It was this fake persona.
Right.
Then I went to Duke. My parents couldn't have afforded to send me to Duke. So I was on an Andrew B. Duke scholarship. In order to stay on scholarship and not get kicked out, I had to have dean's list grades. And at the end of the freshman year, Dean Strobel called me into his office, and he said, I think they were still calling me Michael then, corporate life made it Mike. Michael, we've tested your IQ. We know you should be able to get dean's list grades. We've tested your study habits. So you listen to the radio while you do your homework. That's not great, but you're still smart. You should be able to get the grades. However, we gave you a personality test, and we see that there are 2 things that are off the charts. One is you have an extremely high level of anxiety, and that's what's getting in the way of your studies. You can't concentrate because you're so nervous. As a matter of fact, in my freshman year, I really thought seriously about committing suicide. I was
That's
so
horrible.
unhappy and felt so unworthy.
Now, was this because of what happened at a younger age? Do you feel you were holding all this in?
Yes, because I had been faking all my high school,
Right.
and I
You
now
were,
in college.
You were not authentic within yourself.
Not at all. I was the opposite. And the other thing that the dean said is, and we see this sexual confusion, that's what's making you anxious. Because I didn't ask to be gay. I am gay, but I hadn't accepted that fact. So he said, we have no choice. You're going to come back for your sophomore year and you're going to be on probation. And if you don't get dean's list, you're out of here. But you should start seeing a psychotherapist once a week, and maybe that will help you. And it did. It was
That's
amazing.
wonderful.
Because having just one person, this was a new therapist. I was told later she wasn't that great. But for me, to have somebody I could talk to who wouldn't judge me and who would tell me that I was not worthless, that I still deserved to be alive, it was just all of a sudden I could even hear what I had been afraid to say to myself.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And so I graduated Phi Beta Kappa.
Look at you.
Yeah, not to forget Dean's List.
That's silly, okay.
And so at my last year, the dean called me back and he said, look at what you've done from some therapy. Don't stop. You're going to New York City. I wanted to be a playwright. Thought they'd come up here, they'd hire me as a playwright. They don't do that, so I had to get a business job so I could afford theater tickets. But he said, keep on your therapy, and it will change you, and it did.
That's
it
wonderful.
Transformed me. So believe it or not, it helps me today still. I had 30 years of psychotherapy and psychoanalysis, 4 days a week on the couch. You know, you're not even seeing the therapist, so
Sure.
you're projecting and they're able to learn from it. I had training as a psychotherapist, and I was actually seeing patients because it made such a profound difference. I wanted to do that for other
You want
people.
to give back.
And I was going to quit Avon. By that time, it was the world's #1 direct selling company, the world's #1 beauty company. I was going to quit and be a full-time therapist when Avon made me the youngest VP in their history, charged with
Amazing.
marketing and communications. And my parents said, you are not going to quit and be a therapist. We want our son to be a vice president. So that's what I did.
And of course, all the perks that go with it.
Yeah, good and bad. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we'll just say they were good perks,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
But
No,
you know,
it was wonderful. They moved me up to the 23rd floor,
so
and
this is such a wonderful thing to hear and lesson to project out to people who are going to listen to this, because we hear so many people who are bullied, they want to go the aggressor route. People need to hear there's an alternative and your life can get better.
Well,
and you've done that,
and
which
it
is
starts.
amazing.
You know what it starts with? And this is really because of
Please.
the therapy. No, it starts with, you mentioned the word, authenticity.
Authenticity.
The thing about being bullied is it puts you in a position where you are wondering, what do they want?
Right.
And the beautiful thing about giving yourself a chance to breathe and listen to yourself and be authentic is that's where your happiness is, because it's
Right.
who you are. And I'm a transformed person by having accepted myself for who I am and then building on the strength of who I am.
Exactly.
And for me, that's words. So fine, I found my strength.
Exactly.
I'm a writer.
Words. So get into words. You've excelled in words. You've written for executives, and today you now write music for people to sing.
I write speeches
You read
for
speeches.
execs, but I write songs for artists to sing.
And what a wonderful way to show that, like we said earlier, propel ahead of those people who are bullying you. And that takes away their strength. And
That's
you've
true.
done that beautifully.
And now, you know what's interesting? I still have some contact with South Carolina, especially with the Facebook and so on. People who were mean to me back then,
Yes.
you could never tell. I mean, this is the southernest pecan pie. Oh, Michael.
You have done such marvelous
so
things.
well. Honey child.
That's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about what you're writing. You've got songs that are in the top 5, Billboard charts. It's amazing. You talk about don't judge a book by the cover. And I say that respectively, because if you were walking down the street, you'd be the last person to say, this guy's writing dance music.
Fair enough. I accept that. It's true. It's true.
But it's perfect.
But also, it's a life lesson.
Yes.
Of the old saying, don't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly, like I mentioned a moment ago.
Yeah.
So, how much energy? I can feel all your energy. This has got to be so exciting for you.
You mean writing?
Yes, writing.
Oh my
And the
God.
people that you're dealing with.
True. It's true. So, the people I'm dealing with right now, I'm dealing with, today, with Natalie Jean, a wonderful singer.
Yes.
And we wrote a song. I wrote the words and she has performed it, and I just put it up on YouTube today, and the song is called Love Your Own Power, and it's a song for women. So I happen to be a feminist. I consider myself a feminist since the 1960s, Gloria Steinem and Bella Abzug, and they were pioneers. And I care about equality, partly because I was the dirty Jew boy,
Right.
and the different one, and I know what it's like to be oppressed.
Sure.
And truthfully, I should just, the little side note, so in that culture, the Baptists were up here, then there were the Methodists, then there were Episcopalians, then there were the Catholics. The Jews were terrible, but worse than that was to be black.
Wow.
And I felt empathy
Of
for
course,
them.
and I could feel that from you.
And every Halloween, after I got my driver's license, which was age 14 down there, I would buy candies from my daytime job, part-time for my grandfather in the bakery, and put candies in people's mailboxes in the black section of town, so they had a nice surprise.
Wonderful.
So, because I know what it's like.
Exactly. Exactly.
So anyway, Natalie Jean and I, we the song called "Love Your Own Power." It's a song to women, and I empathize with. I want women to be treated equally. I want everybody to be treated
Exactly.
equally.
It's across the board.
Yeah, and so that's the song, is telling women, love your own power, and you can do anything that a man can do, and you're equal. That's the message of the song, and I'm just really proud of it. And she does such a sensational job.
She is a wonderful person as
Yeah,
well, so you
yeah.
two must be a great partnership.
We enjoy it for sure.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I saw you the other day down at the bitter end speaking, and I got a chance to speak with her.
Good.
And I can feel the energy of the two of you. You couldn't wait for this to be completed.
Right.
What's next on your agenda?
Gosh. Well, I was going to say Gun for Hire, but that's from an old TV show. Lyrics for Hire. Not hire. I'm lyrics.
That's not a political statement, folks.
No, I'm in favor of gun control, since I mentioned that. I write all kinds of things, so I'm open to. For me, a good idea doesn't care where it comes from.
Great.
And when I write a speech for an executive, my tagline on my website is, my promise to an executive is, I'm going to help them sound like yourself, only better. So I do that
Wonderful.
with the words that I write for them. It'll sound like them. It's not supposed to sound like me, but better than they could have done. Same thing when I help them present. And the thing about a song, sometimes I've written songs for an artist by interviewing the artist, the same way that I interview an executive for a speech, and I'll hear something that's, because I listen for phrases as a songwriter, and I'll realize that song came from you, and now that idea, now I'm going to write a song for you to sing.
Excellent.
So I've had some wonderful successes writing songs for people based on the interviews. But in other cases, for example with Natalie Jean, I felt it in the air that there should be a song for women's empowerment.
Excellent.
And I just knew from her vibe that she was a good person to
without
turn
a
to
doubt.
for that.
Without
And
a doubt.
immediately, she's, yes, let's do it.
Exactly.
So what's next? I don't know, because something could happen when I go home tonight. There could be something on the internet, an email offering me
So
something.
looking at your life from the beginning to what you mentioned earlier to now, the doors kept opening for you, and you kept walking through. And that lesson we need to take from what you've shared with us as well is, as doors open, don't be afraid to go through them. Just go through them and accept what's going to happen, and it's going to all work out.
I agree, but I would also add, don't be afraid to nudge the door.
There you go.
Because if you know this is who I am, this is what gives me satisfaction, this is what I'm good at, then use that as a lens to focus on, how do I spend the next hour of my life? Let me go in the direction of something that's going to play to what makes me happy and that lets me give back to other people.
Excellent. How can people find you, Mike?
Oh gosh, easy. So Mike Greenlee on the internet. If you search for that, I've got YouTube videos. I have 2 websites: Mike Greenlee Marketing for my corporate stuff, Mike Greenlee Music for my songwriting. And with the internet, it's just transformed,
Yes,
how
it
to
has.
find people these days.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to, right? And even if you spell names wrong or words wrong,
Yeah.
it's funny how the
But
internet
you
still
mentioned that.
directs you.
People always spelling my name wrong, so let me say that it's the color green, L-Y.
Not
Not
no E.
L-E-Y. No. I already have 2 E's, that's enough. Okay.
We've got too many in
Green
there.
plus L-Y. I tell people all the time, and it works.
Mike, thank you so much for being on the show
It's
today.
a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I enjoyed talking to you before we got here as well. And all this was once again, such a great lesson. Thanks for watching No Excuses, folks. Mike Greenlee, look him up. He's going to be a wonderful person to deal with and, of course, enhance your speech. Thanks once again.
Pretty good interviewer.
Thank you.